Today, we're diving deep into one of the biggest battles in medicine. It's a literal arms race happening on a microscopic scale, a war between us and an ancient, ever-evolving enemy. We're talking about antibiotics.
I mean, think about it. You feel absolutely terrible. You go to the doctor, get a prescription, and a few days later, you're back on your feet. It feels like magic, right? But how does that tiny little pill actually turn the tide against trillions, literally trillions of bacterial invaders? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
Okay, so before we can talk about our weapons, we need to understand the enemy. And more importantly, how do we even know when we're under attack? The bad guys here are harmful bacteria. And trust me, they have some pretty obvious ways of making their presence known. Yeah, all this stuff, this is your body's alarm system blaring. When bacteria start multiplying where they shouldn't, your body sounds the alarm. That fever, that feeling of just being completely drained, the classic redness and swelling, those are all distress signals. It's your body screaming, hey, we've got an invasion here. And on the inside, your immune system is already scrambling the troops, which is what we see as a higher white blood cell count.
Now, here is a really common misconception. We often think antibiotics are like a magic bomb that just obliterates every single bad guy. But that's not really how it works. The real goal is to give your own body a fighting chance. Antibiotics are there to thin the herd, to knock the bacterial army down to a manageable size, so that your own immune system can swoop in and deliver the final knockout punch.
So how do we thin that herd? Well, there are two main strategies. On one side, you've got bacteriostatic antibiotics. Think of these like a freeze ray in a video game. They don't kill the bacteria outright, they just stop them from multiplying. They freeze them in place so your immune system can come along and clean up the mess. But then, you've got the bactericidal antibiotics. These are the kill shots, no messing around. They go in and destroy the bacteria directly. Two totally different tactics, but they're both working towards the same mission. You know, for most of human history, we were basically defenseless in this fight. A simple infection from a cut could easily be fatal. But then, in the 20th century, everything changed. A true miracle weapon was discovered. It is almost impossible to overstate what a massive deal this was. Before the 1940s, things we don't even think twice about today, a scrape on the knee, getting your tonsils out, could be a death sentence. Then, penicillin hits the scene for clinical use. It wasn't just another medicine, it was a revolution that kicked off the entire age of antibiotics and has saved an unbelievable number of lives. So how did this first miracle weapon actually work? Penicillin is what we'd call a wall buster. See, a lot of bacteria have a tough, rigid cell wall around them. It's like their armor. Penicillin gets in there and just messes with their ability to build and fix that wall. And without that strong wall holding everything together, the bacteria basically just bursts. It's a brutally effective strategy. But here's the thing. The bacteria didn't just take this lying down. Like any good enemy, they started to adapt. They started to build defenses, which forced us to get smarter and develop new weapons. And this, right here, is where the real arms race kicks off. This quote really gets to the heart of the problem. The very act of us using an antibiotic is what drives bacteria to become resistant. Think about it. If a few bacteria in an infection happen to have some natural defense, they survive the antibiotic. And then they get to multiply and pass that defense on. Over time, our best weapon becomes useless against this new, tougher strain. So our response had to be to diversify our attacks. When bacteria got wise to our original wall busters, we came up with next-gen wall busters, like cephalosporins. But we also had to invent totally new strategies. We developed factory saboteurs, like macrolides, which stop bacteria from even making the proteins they need to live. We even made DNA scramblers, like fluoroquinolones, that go to the very core and stop the bacteria from being able to copy their own DNA. Every new class of drug was like a new move in a high-stakes chess game. But this constant back and forth has led us to a really dangerous point. We've developed some incredibly powerful antibiotics, yeah, but in doing so, we've also created the perfect breeding ground for the toughest of the tough, the superbugs. For those really serious, multi-drug-resistant infections, we have to pull out the heavy artillery. A great example is a class of drugs called carbapenems. But look at that number. Their half-life, That's the time it takes for half the drug to leave your system, is only 1 to 4 hours. That means to fight a serious infection, a patient has to be in a hospital, hooked up to an IV, getting dose after dose, just to keep enough of the drug in their body to work. It's intense.
Another one of these absolute last lines of defense is vancomycin. This is the drug doctors pull out for some of the scariest bugs out there, like MRSA. It's a lifesaver, for sure, but using it is a serious balancing act because our most powerful weapons almost always come with the most significant risks. And here is a perfect example of that balancing act. A really well-known side effect of vancomycin is something called red man syndrome. The patient gets all flushed, bright red, and can feel pretty awful. But here's the crucial part. This is a toxic reaction, not an allergic one. It's what happens when the drug goes into the vein too fast. You just slow down the infusion, and the problem usually goes away. That's a world away from a true life-threatening allergy.
And this is the trade-off. Our biggest guns can be really tough on the body. They can pose a risk to your kidneys or even cause hearing loss. And by wiping out so many bacteria, both good and bad, they can sometimes open the door for other nasty infections to take hold. This is the hard calculation doctors have to make every single day. The benefit of killing a deadly superbug has to outweigh these really serious potential harms.
So if our strongest weapons are also our riskiest, what do? Where do we go from here?
Well, the future of this war isn't just about building bigger and bigger bombs. It's about being smarter. It's about outthinking the enemy.
Hey, remember our original wall busters, like penicillin? Well, the bacteria got wise to that trick. A lot of them evolved a very specific defense, an enzyme called beta-lactamase. You can think of it like a personal shield or maybe a pair of molecular scissors that specifically hunts down our antibiotic and just snips it in half, making it completely useless before it even gets close.
So what did we do? We got clever. We designed a totally new class of drugs called beta-lactamase inhibitors. Now, what's so cool about these is that on their own, they can't kill a single bacterium. They have zero antibiotic power. Their only job is to be a decoy. They are shield breakers. They run interference, blocking the bacteria's defensive enzymes and leaving them wide open for the real weapon to come in and do its job.
And here's a perfect example. A drug that I bet a lot of you have probably taken, Augmentin. It isn't one drug, it's two. It's a combination of amoxicillin, that's the weapon, and clavulanic acid, that's the shield breaker. The shield breaker goes in first and disables the bacteria's defenses. That clears the way for the amoxicillin to get through and bust down that cell wall. It is a brilliant 1-2 punch that makes an old weapon powerful all over again. Which brings us to today. We are locked in this constant escalating arms race. We create smarter weapons, and the bacteria evolve smarter defenses. But our best weapons, our absolute last resort antibiotics, are an incredibly precious resource. So the thought I want to leave you with is this. Are we, as patients, as doctors, as a society, doing enough to protect these miracle drugs for the future? Thank you for joining us.